Previously on Simple Tricks and Nonsense.
Trying to work with the possessed object, like their limbs are flailing around and they won't stay still. And that one, I'm just like, I hate you. And then at the end, I'm like, I didn't mean it. I love you. I actually wore that to a wedding because nobody knew that it was a costume, and you have to like tie their legs together. And like, I want to get out there and have fun and hang out with my friends. I want to spend all day getting painted. Becky, paint the back of my arm. I can't reach.
And now for part 2.
Oh, that was a fun group costume.
How many Battlestar Galactica costumes did you make?
Yeah, I made 2 of the Caprica 6 dresses from the miniseries. And that were fun. Again, they're definitely replica costumes where I even had to like make the fabric for both of them. Like one of them is a dress that's made out of laser cut leather, and I got pleather and I worked out the pattern, and I sat for like nights after work just like cutting out with a Stanley knife this leather pattern. And I look back on that now and go, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. That was insane. And the other one had it's like a mesh with this geometric pattern on it, and I painted with that fabric paint that's sort of like a bit rubbery and raised that comes in a little squeezy thing. Yep. I made a stencil of the pattern from just like pausing the TV and drawing what the pattern was and looking on the internet. And I think probably the best compliment I got was somebody at DragonCon came up to me and asked if, didn't ask, actually just thought it was the dress from the show. Because they came up to me and said, oh, you're the person who bought that in the auction. And I was like,
that's
no,
awesome.
I'm like, that's a great compliment, but I am also not the same size as Trisha Helfer. I'm not like 18 feet tall, and so I'm just like, that's great that you think I could wear the same size clothing as her. It's like,
wow. So
but
yeah,
that was fun. And then the Cylon, and then I also made Admiral Kane's uniform. That was also a fun replica one, and that was one where I actually found a friend of mine who had the exact fabric that those uniforms were made out of, and I bought a couple of meters of fabric from them, so it was like the exact same fabric. And it was one of those times where, and this is like where the like costuming OCD comes into play, was I had I'd drawn my pattern, I'd laid out my pattern, I'd cut all the pieces, and then I realized that the grain of the fabric was going the wrong way in like a couple of the pieces. And it was like, it's okay, I can use that for the lining. And I had to like then work out with the fabric that was left, like, oh, I can get this out of it here. And then I was like staying up to like 3 a.m. sewing like before I was going to DragonCon. And I ended up, and even though I checked it like 3 times, still put like, they've got these little weird slits at the front of the pants at the ankles, and I checked it like 3 times and still put it on the back instead of the front of the pants. So then I'm like, well, now I have to make the pants shorter. So it was just like the waist just went down a bit. Now they're kind of like hipster pants, but it'll work. It'll be fine. It did work, but it was sort of like you get the cosplay costumer OCD where it's just like it has to be exactly like on TV.
Yep. There's been costumes where there'll be a panel on a jacket, or say across the front of the jacket, where you'll have 4 panels make up the front of it, and we've cut it out before, and 3 of them are identical. The weave is all going the same direction, and then that third one, because of space, you're like, oh, and the whole time you're wearing it, in the back of your mind you're like looking down at it, looking around, looking down at it. You're trying to turn your body away from people. Like, don't look at this place. I'm really ashamed that the weave isn't going the same way.
Yep. Well, like, with my Admiral Kane, it was like all of the long shots. It was like my pants are sitting low and the hems are a little too high because I've fucked up doing that, the cuffs on it. But maybe I can find somebody with that fabric again and remake them. But I also only really wear something once and then lose all interest in it, because like 99% of my enjoyment is actually doing the making. So once I've made it and I wear it once, I want to make something new and wear that. So I've got a really short attention span.
You're looking for a new mountain to climb.
Yeah.
You're like, I already climbed that one, so.
but the building of it, the making is like, that's what I do it for. And the problem solving, I love the problem solving, like looking at something like, oh, how did they do that? I did, keep forgetting that I did this. I did, what's it called? The Home for Peculiar Children.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I did that, the jacket in that had these weird shoulders on it. And I spent like months like looking at it going, it's like some origami shit where it's, and trying to work out how that was folded. And then once I made it, I wore it once and just went, okay, I've done that. I worked out how they did the folding on that. I've solved that Rubik's Cube. I need a new puzzle to solve now.
That's awesome.
One I really loved was the puppet you made for Farscape, the one you made up, that whole costume.
Oh, yeah.
The whole puppet, that was
He's
awesome.
actually on the other side of this shelf. Oh, my leg's gone to sleep. Ow. Yeah, keep him in a little glass box on the other side of. Here he is.
Look at him.
This guy. So that's just his head. And again, it was something I had to like be able to break down and take. I wonder if the batteries are still good in this. Let's see. Where's the?
So that was when you like fully embraced like, okay, I'm a puppeteer.
No, I still didn't think I was a puppeteer. Okay, so this year is the first year I've decided I'm a puppeteer. I can't work out where the button's gone for that, but it actually had, again, this is one of those things like when you put lights in something and you're so proud of it and then it's too bright where you're showing the thing and nobody notices the lights, but there's like a bundle of fiber optics in the back of here that go to this. So his little thing here had all these just tiny little red dots in it. It was just like this really, and yeah, I'm sure nobody noticed that at all. But he had his little, he had a little motor that moved his mouth, and
awesome.
Then he had a snake mech for the, what's it called, what they call it, a spiny mech. I know it was a tentacle mech when I've seen other people talk about it, but yeah, that had that. But the creative brief was that it had to have one mechanical mechanism in it. And I put 3 in because I was so convinced that one of them was going to break that I was like, oh, if I just have the mouse move and the servo breaks or the remote control stops working. And like when I did the neck, I'm like, oh, but if the neck doesn't move properly. And then at the last minute, I had the tail had a fishing wire to it so I could make the tail flick around. So I'm like, okay, if the neck doesn't work and the mouth doesn't work, I can still move the tail, and it's still. I'm not going to get disqualified from this competition. So I'm just like
nothing's
so
worse.
so paranoid. But yeah, no, I love this little guy, and this again, it was just so fun to be able to make your own thing up, but having a really rich visual history to have a springboard from and to draw from. So that was so much fun. Would do again. Yes.
Does it help when there's when there's parameters set up like that, where it's like, okay, this is going to be related to Farscape, and I know the Farscape aesthetic and what exists in that universe. So to have those parameters set up and be like, okay, now I'm going to build something in it. Like, we didn't all of us enter that Henson Dark Crystal costume or contest?
The drawing one.
Yes. Yep. I mean, isn't it really helpful when it's like, okay, well, I know the parameters of this world.
Yep. Yeah, and I always think like I'm not particularly creative. I know that sounds stupid, but yeah, when I guess that was also why I did illustration at art college, because I'm like, I'm taking somebody else's words and using them as inspiration to make something. So I've always liked having that springboard to anchor my work to. So that's why it's really good when you've got something like, especially like Farscape's so rich and such diversity. Like so many people did such different stuff from that, and you could have gone in lots of different directions. But it was really good to be like, okay, I'm going to come up with this story and I'm going to link it to a pre-existing character, and that really helped me cement. Because otherwise, like, I'm kind of spoilt for choice. If you said you can make anything you want, I would just be there. It's like, standing in the candy aisle going, I don't know what I want now. Like, there's just too much to choose from. So it's great to like have somebody narrow down the options for you and go, okay, within this box, you can do whatever you want. And then I go, oh, okay, great. This is where I want to play.
No,
But yeah, no, I was just saying,
go ahead.
no, I was just saying, just going back to being a puppeteer and not being a puppeteer, and I've never considered myself. They say I'm a maker or a puppet builder, but this year is the first time I've decided that I'm a puppeteer because I entered the Los Angeles Puppetry Guild 48-hour puppetry competition. It's the second year I've done it, and this year I decided. Last year, my sister and I just made this really silly, wacky thing, and it was really fun to do with her. And a lot of the time, I just use like silly humor and stuff in my work because I like dumb jokes. And so, but this year I went, I'm gonna put all that silliness aside. I'm gonna try to make something serious. And I did, and I won Best Use of Puppetry. And so I was at the after event for that, and I didn't know that I'd won that at that time. And people were all discussing their films, and I went, oh, hi, I'm Kendall. I made the film Love Letters, and I'm not a puppeteer. I'm a maker. And I was saying that because I made all my puppets out of origami. And I did that because I'm a maker. And if you tell me you've got 48 hours to write a film, make all the puppets, film the film, edit the film, I'm going to spend 48 hours building puppets because I like to make stuff. So I was just like, if I make it out of origami, it'll be quick. I won't get like obsessively bogged down on just the making, and I'll be able to like achieve the goal in 48 hours. And I was saying, oh, I'm not a puppeteer. And that's when I was told, like, when are you going to stop saying that? And I was like, well, I'm not. And they're like, but you just won Best Puppetry. And I was like, what? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to stop saying that and accept the fact that I am actually a puppeteer. Yeah, I'm still not sure that I feel like I am a puppeteer, but yes, I'm trying to embrace it and be a puppeteer from here on in.
That's awesome.
Do you think that'll be more fun? I look at a lot of the stuff that we make, and there's times where I say, well, we might as well have just made a statue and just put a statue on display, because in some cases you go to a convention in a costume and you're covered from head to toe and you're not moving sometimes because everybody's taking photos of you, and you're just like, well, just replace me with a statue because it's the same thing. And then
yes and no.
I think like when it comes to making puppets and props and stuff like that, it's probably more enjoyment because you can walk away from it a bit. You can like put it there and then you can walk away from it. Yeah, so this year for Dragon Con, I couldn't go to Dragon Con because COVID and travel bans, and I'm stuck in Australia, and we're actually in lockdown. Like, I couldn't go 5 kilometers from my house when Dragon Con was on. And I built a puppet and put him in the mail and sent him to Dragon Con, and my puppet went to Dragon Con for me.
Aww.
And it was great. Like, I felt like I was there and I was interacting, and then my puppet performed in the Puppet Slam. And Stacey Gordon, who performed a piece with him, just did the most amazing job and like totally made me cry. And yeah, that's great. It's like, oh my God, through my puppet, I was still able to participate and have this great connection and experience, even though I couldn't leave my house. So you're right. Like, being able to make something and actually not have to be part of it can also be fulfilling. But I do know, like with my my Artax head, when I filmed some footage of it moving because lots of people were asking to see video of it, and I hadn't found any video online. So I just took it out to my yard and I filmed him in the garden and stuck it up. And the amount of people that went, oh my God, I didn't know this moved. And it's like, oh, well, because you just see these photos and you put all this effort into making it move. But you know what? I don't regret making it move, because like that was part of the time when I was doing that. That was the thing that people were like losing their shit over. Like, they were just like, stop it. It's like so upsetting. Like, and if it was static, it would be like, oh, that's cool. But the fact that it was like its eyes blinked and its mouth opened and its ears were flapping backwards and forwards.
You gave it more life.
Yeah, I think that was like the thing that was really pulling at people's heartstrings. Just going, oh my God, I'm just like reliving my childhood trauma. And I'm like, well, if I have to relive it, so does you're all coming with me.
Well, I think we live in an age where we can build these functions into this stuff now. It's like you see prop weapons and whatnot, and they light up, or they make the sound effect and all this other stuff, and the technology, everything's getting smaller and easier, and there's tutorials online, and we finally have all these materials that it's to build those functions, like in your labyrinth dress, where the eyes are moving and the mouths are moving and stuff like that. It's like to have function in your costume. It's not to me. That seems like I would have never imagined it 15, 20 years ago. Like, no, if you can just have it look good, that would have been enough. And now it's like, oh no, we can make them actually do things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's like, I'm always happy with what I create and like the finished product, but I'm sure you do the same thing where it's like the finished product isn't always your starting idea. Like, there's a lot of my costumes that have taken ages to get around to doing, like the Predator costume. I think it was like 3 years beforehand, I was going to do it for a Halloween party, and then it just didn't happen. And then I just like, we decided we were going to do the Aliens and Predators the group. And I was like, oh, I'm going to resurrect that thing that I started thinking about. And then I totally upped my game with how I did the armor and everything, because it was going to be for a Halloween party. So it was kind of crappy, one night only technology that was in it. But often, like, I have these grandiose ideas, and then I get like halfway through and just go, yeah, that's not going to work. And I'm usually really happy with the end product, and people, like, especially with that one, people like lost their shit over it and it went viral. But I was just like, I was going to have it do all these other things. And like, with that one, at one point I was really happy with the face prosthetic. Like, I was really happy with that, but I was looking at trying to have like a mech to do that. So I could have like take the mask off, which like had magnets in it, so it magneted onto my face, so I could take the mask off, and that really like blew people away, because you see so many people with the Predator costumes, and it's just like either the latex mask or it's just the helmet. But the fact that I had a helmet, I could take it off, and there was the face underneath it. I was like, I'd take it off, and I'd see the look on people's faces, like, oh, yeah. Jesus. But I just wanted to have that, and I'm like, the fact that it didn't do that, I was like, I wanted this thing, and I was like fiddling around with like little springs and stuff, and I just couldn't get them small enough and to fit in the latex. And now I see like the puppets of Barnaby Dixon, and he uses the hinges out of umbrellas to get tiny hinges and little springs, and the tiny mechanisms he has that are so reliable that I'm just like, oh man, I bet like if I went to his house and went through his workshop, I could make the little things that did that. So, you're right. I think there are, like, again, it's the problem solving thing that I liked. It was like, here is a problem that's really hard to solve. Like, there's no joy in solving an easy problem, like the joy of solving a difficult problem is really good.
Do you ever go back to costumes, or is it?
I'm sure I have. I'm just trying to think. Well, Eon Flux, I did a really crap version of Eon Flux.
How you're talking about the Predator, like, would you go back to that and add those if you figured it out, or were you done with that?
I think I'm probably done with it, but it depends. Like, if you guys were like, oh, let's do another group thing, and it was because I was going to, like, I had a reason to do it, not just doing it for the sake of. Like, I had some motivation from other people that were just like, hey, come and play dress-ups with us. I'd be like, yeah, maybe I would go and revisit that. But there's, like, so many other things that I haven't done yet. Like, and I know lots of costumers, like, remake the same thing over and over and over again. And,
I don't know what you're talking
about.
How many times have you done box?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, but like I get it. Because sometimes I look at ones that I've done in the past and go, I could do that better. I could do that.
Yeah.
And if I do wear it again, there's things I will do. Like I made my traditional Harley Quinn costume. The pants need a better waistband on them, and so I'm just like, okay, and I haven't done it. I haven't put the waistband on, but if I ever wear it again, I'm going to get that out. I'm going to fix the waistband on those. And like, you wear it and realize that there are things that could be better or more comfortable or look better, or, so if I am going to wear it again, yes, I will go back and do those things. And I have had a couple of costumes that I've worn, again at Halloween or something, I dig it out and wear it. But I know there's just so many other things that I want to do that if you go, you've got this finite amount of time, you can remake something you've already done, or you can make something new. I'm almost always going to go for trying to make something new. Having said that, I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of costumes in my garage. It's like a it's like a cemetery for.
Do you repurpose stuff out of them? Do you get rid of them? What do you do with?
I don't know what to do with them. I've got ones there that I'm probably never going to wear again, but I kind of go, oh, maybe I will. Or maybe I'll use the fur on it, or maybe I'll pull it apart and use that out of it. I don't know. I'm just, yeah, there's of all things, there's a He-Man costume that I made for like a shitty
I remember
rave.
that.
Like, it was a crappy rave at the university. And so I just made like this last minute sort of He-Man thing out of like stuff in my house. And I'm like, it's a piece of crap, but I'm still like, maybe I'll have a crappy party to go to in the future where I want to be He-Man again. I don't know, like. So I can't quite bring myself to get rid of certain things. And yeah, you're right. There's also like, oh, is there enough fabric? Like, oh, that's really good scuba fabric, and maybe like I'll keep it in case I need to cut it up and reuse it. And I also don't like things going into landfill. So if I can recycle stuff, I will. But I've just got boxes of costumes that I don't really know what to do with.
I'm trying to think.
Like, I don't think I could sell them. Like, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure I could,
Yeah.
but trying to like, oh, here's this costume, and like you've got to be my size, and
Yep.
like
Your
Exactly.
height.
some weird.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys have had the same thing, but I've had costumes that I've gone to wear again. Oh God, and again. I've gone to
alright,
wear
I see it.
again, and like I kind of look at it and go, oh, how does this go on again? And which piece do I put on first? And it'll be like this like overly complicated method to get into this costume that like 3 years later I'm looking at going, man, I should have written myself instructions.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Like, how did I put? Oh no, I put that part on first.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yep.
know,
do
oh,
the
this
same thing.
Velcros to this bit. I get it now. Like it's as if I've never worn it
Let's
before.
go on my
You know?
boobs, not on my knees.
Yeah. Yep.
No, there's been other occasions in which I've had costumes where something fell apart on it, or something broke, or I needed to put some attention towards something, and I put it away without having left instructions or say fix this before
What
you
was
wear it
broken?
again. Yes, and then
Yep.
that time passes, and you go to put it on. You're like, yeah, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna wear it, and then you get to that part, and you're like, oh yeah, I told myself I needed to fix that.
hmm
And you're like, son of a bitch.
Yep. But yeah, I never want to fix it. Like when it's like I've finished wearing it for today. I'm not gonna wear this for years. I'm gonna
Yep.
like spend my time doing something else.
Exactly.
So do you do this? Because we did this. Our first time traveling with costumes was just this year for PowerCon, and we've like you were the first person we contacted. We were like, how do you travel with costumes? Because our main concern was like if we could just get it there, and then when we're packing stuff, we're like, I'll fix it when I get home. Do you do the same thing where you're like, if I could just get it there safe when you're coming
Yep.
home, you're like, I don't care if it breaks, I can fix it later.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So when I'm packing to go to a con, like you pack it all in your like hard suitcase, and sometimes like with my dark crystal dress, that was one where I like bubble wrapped each of the pieces and put them in the suitcase. And then like because it was like a skirt, so then you like use the skirt to pack around it, and you try to make it as safe as possible. But like literally every time I've packed my suitcase to go overseas, there's apart from like the first time I went to Dragon Con where I just had soft costumes, so just fabric ones. Yeah, every other time you pack it, you check it in, and then you just have like the uncertainty, like Schrodinger's cat anxiety that, your costume is, broken and safe all at the same time until you get to the hotel and like you open it up and check it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's always the like get to, if it's Dragon Con, you like get to Atlanta and get to CVS and buy yourself some like Gorilla Glue and some super glue and some duct tape, like all of the things that you've got to fix again. So like this little guy, when he got to, you can see there's just like a hairline. When he got to Atlanta, it was like this little thing had broken off. So I had to like glue that back on. And was there anything else with him? I think that was the only thing with him that I was just like, oh, I'm going to fix that. But other things I've had where like I had some hooves that I'd made, and there was like a crack in one of them that I had to like stick some like epoxy resin in. And my Skeksis dress, for the first dark crystal ball I went to, it had these crazy big back piece on it, and that had broken. That was foam, and that had broken in like 3 places when I got there. And so like go get some Gorilla Glue and glue it together and make sure. So you've got to like get there a day in advance to give all the glue time to dry before you have to wear anything. But yeah, but most of my stuff has got away scot-free, and a lot of the times, if it's like EVA foam and stuff, that's pretty forgiving. The one thing I don't like is if you've got something that's spray painted and it's a nice, perfect surface, and then it like something sticks to it in the suitcase, and you get there, and then there's like this fabric impression on it, and you're like, no.
Yep. That was I used a metallic Plastidip on Mannyface's helmet, and when I had first painted it, the sheen was beautiful. It looked, like it was on a car or something like that. And then just in handling it and moving it around, it just got duller and duller and duller. And it's like, yeah, note to self, don't make it out of that stuff. Have you
And the
ever
thing
had
is, like, nobody else will know that. Everybody else is just like, your costume is amazing, and you're like, it's not as good as it could be.
Exactly. That's exactly how it is. Throw yourself on the bed, cover your head. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. What have you ever had to hand carry something weird, like some costume piece where you're like, I'm so concerned about this, or I'm not going to check this in. I'm going to try to carry this one thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what I've hand carried. I know I had a hat box that I took as carry on with that had the Eon Flux wig in it. And I had the same hat box that had parts of the darkness, like the face prosthetic. Not that was delicate, it was just weird shape, and it was like, this will go in this hat box, and now this hat box is my carry-on. Trying to think what else has been carry-on. I can't remember if maybe you can see them if I spin this around. It might be too dark, but look at my messy house. Sitting above my kitchen cabinet is my storyteller devil.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think he may have been carry on because I was really worried about him getting broken. But I can't remember. I had so much stuff that year. Like that was a crazy year because that was Darkness and Storyteller Devil and Atreyu. That was the 3. That was the first 3 suitcase con where I had to. And luckily,
con.
it was a 3. It's always a 2 suitcase con, but this was a 3 suitcase con. Where I was just like, I have to. And I'm like calling the airline the night before, going, how many check-in cases do I? 3. I get 3. Oh, that's excellent. Thank you. And my sister had, I think my sister had 2 maybe. And then we called an Uber the next day to go to the airport, and this like 2-door hatchback turns up.
Oh.
And so literally like Jordan went with like most of the suitcases in one Uber, and I had to get like another Uber and then meet her at the airport. There was a lot of like, that riddle where, you've got like a fox and a baby and a loaf of bread or some crap, and you've got to get it across the river. It was like getting to Atlanta was that where it was like, okay, I'm going to leave you with the 5 suitcases, and I'm going to go over here and get this thing for check-in, and then I'm going to come back here, and then you're going to go over there, and you're going to take 2 of the suitcases, and I'm going to take 2. You're going to come back here and get the last one. Like, it was insane, but it worked, and like I couldn't have done it. I could not have got 3 suitcases there by myself, but 2 of us and 5 suitcases kind of worked.
Yeah, you're giving me bad flashbacks to just checking into hotels where Becky and I have like a mountain of luggage, and we have wardrobe bags like draped over everything, and everything's kind of stacked up, and it's like, okay, he's like, we're gonna offload the car here curbside. You're gonna wait here. I'm gonna try to find a place to park, and I'll come back. It's like, and we'll try to get. Yeah, we've done that. Or from parking garage to getting stuff into the hotel and like getting up, up and down the elevators. We've done all that just on a smaller scale.
Yeah, so I'm as stressful as that is. I can't wait to do it again. I'm so looking forward to the next time I can get on a plane and come and play dress ups with you guys.
It's gonna be awesome. We did that video last year called 2020, the Dragon Con that wasn't. And it was she and we were talking about like all the memories and the things that we liked and the things that we just didn't like, or talking about just memories and reminiscing about stuff. And you were in a whole bunch of the pictures of that.
Well, you guys are like really, like, you give me inspiration and motivation because you'll be like, oh, hey, we're doing this group costume. Do you want to be part of it? And I'd be like, you know what? I never would have done that on my own. But now that you've like involved me in it and I've got like people to discuss it with, like now I totally want to be in on that. So I know that we've got ones that, we haven't got to do yet. They're sort of still in the pipeline. I'm looking forward to like getting back and finishing those costumes and doing that. And even just like doing the Skeksis, like Jordan was making a Skeksis and I was making a Skeksis, and like having two of us doing it at the same time, like sending each other photos. And we did them like totally differently. Like, so it was cool to see like two different ways of doing it and two different ways of solving problems, but like feeding off each other's motivation and enthusiasm. So like that's always good when, especially like coming up to the con where you're like counting down and going, oh, it's never going to be finished in time. But then you'd be like looking at somebody else and going, oh my God, that's going to be amazing. I have to get this finished because I want to be part of that group. And I want to be, it's going to be so much fun when there's like all of us in this group dressed up like that. And I can't wait to do that again.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because the thing is, there's definitely projects where it's like I wouldn't have been involved in that unless I got the encouragement or like the nudge to do it. And then in some cases I've discovered that just being handler is enough for me to almost get the same enjoyment as like when Becky was the Metropolis robot, or when we were helping you with Darkness, where it's like, oh yeah, I don't mind being handler. It's like I don't have any of the discomfort of wearing the costume, but I get to admire it. I get to help the person in it, and I get to admire it.
But Darkness is a perfect example. I love that film, and I freaking love the costume, and I'm so glad I made it. But it was only because my sister started making a Dark Lily. I'm just trying to think how long ago now. It's got to be 7 years ago. It's got to be more than 7 years ago, because it was before she got pregnant. And so she started making it, and then she got pregnant and went, well, I can't do that costume now because I'm like 7 months pregnant, and that's going to look ridiculous. So it got sidelined. And then, years later, she went, I started this thing, I want to finish it. And she just wrote to me and she said, you're going to dress as Darkness. And I'm like, okay, then. And I wouldn't have taken that initiative to do that myself without her telling me to do it. And I'm just so glad I did. And it was great, and it came out amazing, and it was so much fun. And then I got some really great professional pictures taken of it that just blew up on my Facebook, just went nuts. I'm so glad I did that. And again, if she hadn't given me the nudge, I wouldn't have done it, but I'm so glad I did.
Yep. Well, I mean, the unfortunate thing is, I know you're one of those people who your enthusiasm and your energy for something, you'll take it upon yourself to, I guess, try to complete the big picture. And you're like, well, I'll just make you the costume, or I'll just make you the costume, because I want all these characters to be in this group. I don't want it to just be me. I want to look at that. It's like, oh, there's 3 or 4 or 5 of us. It's like, so I'll just make you that, and I'll just make you that, because that's how I got into it. It was like, Dad, I'll make you this costume. Just stand by me when we go.
So you can come and hang out with us. Yeah,
exactly.
But I mean, like when we did the Captain Harlock one, like that was cool, because I'm like, oh, I want to make the leather work, and I wanted to like do all this leather stuff, and you were like, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna make you the leather one too. So we got matching belts and matching belt buckles, and
that was.
And you were like, oh well, I'm gonna make the weapons, and
then that's
like,
when John dragged me into. He's like, you're gonna be Mattel, and I was like, okay. And I was like, it was fun.
And you were perfect.
Like, here, watch this cartoon. Like, hair.
Yeah.
Look, you have enormously long blonde hair, so it's perfect.
Oh, that was a great group.
The group projects like that are so much fun.
Those are my favorites.
I like watching the shows like Face Off and whatnot, where you see them problem solve and try to come up with things, and then I see that in us when we get
it's
to
our
work
everyday
on
life, yeah.
Because it's like, sending messages to each other and saying, oh well, what are you going to make this out of, or what's your approach on this? I can recall messages for the past almost 10 years of you and I talking about, like, so how are you going to make such and such, or had you thought about doing this, or wouldn't it be awesome if you could have articulated mouths in the Hank boobs?
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it evolves into something more. I can't, but and again, that was just like such a dumb joke that I wanted to do, and I'm like, and you make a joke in a conversation, ha ha ha, wouldn't that be funny? And then you're like, well, why can't you do that? I should totally do that. Why haven't I done that already? And then you do it. And speaking of like dumb jokes, like the Walk of Shame Game of Thrones one that I did, which was just really, really ridiculous. So I just like stuck fake food all over myself and had like this blonde merkin. And my friend dressed up as the nun with the bell, and there's just this awful photo of the two of us, and I'm like, oh man, that was such a dumb joke, but I loved it. You know, it's just like those interactions. And again, I think I wasn't going to do that at DragonCon that year. She asked me, she was like, you've got to do this so we can hang out together and do this dumb joke together. And I was like, okay. And it was so much fun. And it was such a great like DragonCon costume, because it's like probably the only time I'm not been ridiculously overdressed and hot. And even like next year, I'm already thinking of like all the costumes I want to make for next year, and it's already just like, well, that's going to be like head to toe velvet, and that's going to be head to toe fake fur. And
Same.
I'm like, yeah, I'm going to die of dehydration.
Isn't it sad that like the handful of Dragon Cons where it was actually cool, or like the actual outside temperature, feel like it was so long ago? You're like, oh, why didn't I wear those costumes then?
Yeah, so like the one time it was cold and like rained the whole time was the year I did Mystique, or like I spent like, I think it'd be like 4 hours of Holly painting me, so I could just be blue for the day. And then because I'd got so painted when we had that Venture Brothers party, I was going to wash it off, and just my idea was just to go as Molotov, but like with the chastity belt on. But I was just like, I can't get this blue paint off in time, so I just had to go dressed as Mystique, and I just like put the eye patch on and the chastity belt. I'm like, oh, mashup costume. I don't want to be a mashup costume, but I have to be, because I can't get this blue paint off. It took me like 3 hours to get the blue paint off in the end, and that was the year it was cold and raining. It's like the year I walked around like in my underpants for a day, freezing my ass off. Like, why didn't I wear like one of the ridiculously overdressed leather things this year, you know?
Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you Kendall for joining us, and we can't wait to see you at DragonCon. I was about to say PowerCon, but DragonCon. Well, we hope you enjoyed watching that as much as we enjoyed talking to her, as we always do.
And expect more great costumes to come in the year ahead.
Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.
And you're like, it's not as good as it could be.